It's up. You won't see it for about 30, 45 seconds, but you're good.
Okay. All right. There's the man, Stephan. What's up, dude?
What's up, man?
Hey, where are you at, Atlanta?
Yeah, in Atlanta, hanging out. Well, that's where I live. So,
How's the quarantine treating you?
for me, it's been great. At the same time, I'm ready for it to be over. But at the same time, it really has been a great time period, and I've been able to focus on some things and evolve and improve in a lot of ways. So, it's my own little blessing. I don't want to call it a blessing in general because it's affecting a lot of other people in a negative way. But for me, it has been
what's up, dude?
a personal blessing.
Whoops. Hey, where are you at, Atlanta? Oops. Hold on one second.
In Atlanta, hanging out. Well, that's where I live. So,
Hold on one second,
how's the
Stephan.
quarantine treating you? For me, it's been great. At the same time, I'm ready for it to be over. But at the same time, it really has been a great time period.
I think we got an echo here. Oops. All right, maybe we're okay now. Okay. I think we're all right now. Sorry about that.
All right, no problem.
So, you've probably written about what, 6 books during the quarantine now?
Well, coming into the year, I had told myself I was going to kind of take a break in the first half of the year anyway. So it really just all worked out for me because I didn't plan any tours. I wasn't going to write any books. Really, I've been recording the books and putting them into audio format and just trying to clean up stuff on the business end. But I haven't written anything new yet. I do plan on writing at least 1 new book for this year to be released, maybe 2, but more than likely just 1 new book after maybe like starting next month.
All right. Yeah. The way you crank them out, I figured you probably had a whole library full of them by now.
A library full of ideas. That's for sure.
Yeah. That's what's up. So I appreciate you taking time to jump on. I know you're a busy guy.
No problem, man.
So I was talking to a girlfriend of mine the other day, and I was telling her that I was going to be talking to you, and she said something about your wife. And I was like, he's not married. He's single. And she was shocked, right? Because she's like, well, hold on. She's like, how's he know so much about relationships and all that? And then the question came up. She's like, well, maybe it's because he talks about them so much that his bar is so high that there's no woman that could meet that standard because he's really evaluated relationships so deeply. And I was like, it could be. It got my mind working. Where I went with it was like, you think about like an OBGYN and you start to wonder, like, do they get tired of looking at them all day when they come up? They don't. I know they don't. I know that's terrible. That's where my mind went. But I was like, that's an interesting question. I'm going to ask them. So like, are you still single? Because last time we talked, you were single.
Still single.
So is it your bar is just so high, or what is it?
Yes and no. So first and foremost, to me, it's God's bar is so high because I can't get into a relationship unless God says that's the one. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, we can meet tons of great people. That doesn't mean we're supposed to be in a relationship with them. That doesn't mean we're truly ready the way that we think we are. So to me, the standard that God sets when you're trying to be in alignment with what he wants, that's a much higher bar for yourself and that other individual you're supposed to get with, because I can't just get with anybody. I have a purpose on my life. There's a lot I have to do, and that everyone does not align with that just because their resume looks good. So there is some of that to the equation as to, why I'm still in this position.
Yeah. So where is the balance between your standards and letting God move? That was actually a question that somebody wanted me to ask you when in advance. So meaning like we all have a list, or maybe, and I don't know how you feel about lists. I have mixed feelings about lists. I mean, I do have some non-negotiables, but where's the balance between your list, your standards, and then letting God move for you? Or where should it be for others even?
So first for me, there is no balance. It's just what God wants. Because my thing is this, I don't worry about my preferences because I know whatever God has for me is going to be amazing. You know what I'm saying? And I know there'll be plenty of things on there that may align with my list. And then if I had one, and there are going to be some things that maybe I didn't even think about. that God knew better, that I needed better than I knew it. So I don't focus on it so much as far as what my list would be or striking that balance. And because I think that's what gets us in trouble. If we get too caught up in what we want, now being patient, trusting what God is saying, we're going to have a harder time with that. Because can you imagine you meet a woman or you meet a man and they have everything you've ever wanted? If you don't understand that that does not mean that's who God has for you, you will easily get caught up in that situation. And what happens is it looks great right now, but there's things that you just don't see, you just don't know. And you have to just lean on God. And I've had plenty of situations where I met people, thought, okay, this could be it. And then when I prayed, God was like, no. And then it was like a little bit later that I saw why it was a no. And I understood it. And I was like, okay, I dodged a bullet because I listened to God and didn't get caught up in my own feelings or desires.
I love it, man. I've been to several of your events, obviously, and you give the answers, and usually I'm just in the crowd shaking my head like, yep, he's right on. So let me ask you this question. This is kind of a personal question. So if you were faced with these two scenarios, you can never have sex again, or you settle. What do you choose?
Damn. Never have sex again, or I settle.
Meaning like you haven't found that one that just knocks you off your feet. Because there is like, that's what a lot of people I see happen to people is where they're tired of being single and they tap out because they don't want it. It's hard, right? There's that longing. I know I've felt it in my own life where I've been tempted to just be like, just choose somebody already, you know? So what would you do? And then what would you suggest for others? I don't know if that's a fair question.
So it's going to sound crazy, but I would pick the no sex before settling. Never have sex again. Because to me, man, when you settle, you're never at peace. You're never happy. You're never fulfilled. There's always a void there. I can't live like that. You know, going without sex, I've gone on a journey and I've been abstinent many times in my life to where, yeah, of course we want to have sex, but I can deal without sex more than I could deal with being in a situation I know I don't belong in. Especially if I know in my heart and my spirit, this is not where God wanted me to be. There's no peace in that. I can't live like that. So I'll take the no sex.
There's a saying, better to be single and lonely than with the wrong person and unhappy. And I 100% agree.
Absolutely.
So going back to the God, you know, as far as God telling you who you should date or not date, not having a list, not at least holding too firmly to that list. Where's the balance between how much work you're supposed to do and how much you just kind of trust God and wait? Because I see a lot of people wait and they're just like, they're not really out doing anything. Now I know you're a proponent of online dating, or, you know, and you're not against it at least. So where's the balance in that as far as like, okay, well, how much do I actually trust God to do it? And how much am I responsible for making it happen? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So okay. The trust part has to be 100%. You can't really find a balance in regards to trusting God. You either do or you don't. You're either in or you're out. There's no in between. So you've got to be able to trust him. But as far as doing what your part, that goes into the trusting and learning how to pray and listen to God as far as what you need to be doing in your life. Too many people are waiting on God, but they're not putting in any work with themselves, with their own growth, with getting in alignment with where God wants them to be in life. So you're not really following God in that sense. You're just saying, okay, I'm going to trust God to give it to me, but you're not following any instructions. And if you look at it from a scriptural perspective, there were always instructions. It wasn't just, okay, just do what you want and I'm just going to drop you a blessing real quick. It was, and that can happen sometimes, but for a lot of the stories, if not all of them, it was, okay, do X, Y, Z. Go here, you'll get this. Do this, this is what's going to happen. There had to be some level of instruction. So I feel like that's the part that people are missing.
Yeah.
They're waiting, but they're not seeking out instruction on what they should be doing while they're preparing to receive. I don't even like saying wait. We're not waiting. We're preparing to receive.
Yeah.
So when you have that mentality, now you understand there's both work and faith that has to go hand in hand.
Yeah, I love it. I heard somebody say one time, you should think about waiting like someone waiting on tables. You're out working, you're serving, you're hustling. So when I first became a Christian, my strategy was basically what you just advised against, because my whole thing was, all right, God, I'm going to kind of hunker down. I'm going to stay out of trouble. I'm going to not sin. And I'm going to wait for you to send me a wife to help me not be lonely. It's going to fix all my problems. And that was it was really my plan, was just not sin, that was it. And then of course that he just let me wait for 6 years, and then I backslid. And then I realized when I rededicated that, no, he gave you this season of singleness because he wants something out of you. He wants you to do something with it, because I really do believe that, your season of singleness can be the most productive season of your life, because you don't have to worry about anybody else's happiness, so you can really be a high achiever. You can get a lot of shit done when you don't have to worry about being home at a certain time or kids or all that.
Exactly.
You agree?
Yeah, absolutely agree. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what do you know about twin flame? Is that something that you talk about?
I haven't really gone into it. I'm aware of it on a surface level. I actually purchased a book to dive deeper into it. I do believe that, from my understanding, it's very similar to my belief of connection. And two people, when they have that connection, which is not something you're going to find with everybody, I believe there is some correlation between twin flame and connection, but I have to do some more studying just to get the exact verbiage and how they're breaking it down specifically. Because sometimes there might be a small little difference that throws it off and makes me say, okay, now I don't know about this. So I can't really say 100% at the moment, my perspective on it.
So what about this? So I actually Googled this. I was curious what the #1 relationship question people ask is. And I wanted to see if you had a video on it. I didn't actually see it. And it's kind of general, but it was, what does a healthy relationship look like?
And that's crazy and sad that that's the question. That shows how many people don't know what healthy is and either never witnessed it or lived it. So here's the thing. There's healthy in two perspectives. There's what society is creating as healthy because they're attaching it to what's common. Meaning, you'll hear people say arguing is healthy. Arguing is not healthy. Disagreement is okay. Arguing, going back and forth, cursing, negative energy, that's not healthy. There's nothing healthy about that. But there are a lot of people in society who will sell that as a quote unquote healthy relationship. So to me, healthy relationship is two people who've addressed their past issues, healed from their past issues, understand how to communicate to each other effectively, are sharing the same values, are embracing what the other needs and willing to pour into that, and desire to go in the same direction with each other. That to me is pretty much a healthy relationship, which is rare to come across, but as far as people actually being in one, but that is what would make one healthy.
Why do you think it's so rare? Do you think people were just rush into it with the wrong ones? They can't take being single because it's hard, or
hell, all of that. people rushing, people are afraid to be alone, people seeing bad examples. Again, what you'll have is you have dysfunctional relationships trying to pass their behavior off as normal. So it's almost like, this is just what comes to my head. Some guys will tell women, oh, every guy cheats. He does that because that's the behavior he engages in. And to validate it, he has to make it seem like that is normal behavior. Again, all couples argue. I have to make myself feel like there's nothing really wrong here. So let me tell other people. So you're passing down dysfunctional behaviors and trying to claim it as normal and okay and healthy. So now people have skewed perceptions of what a real relationship is. And more specifically, they're not passing it down to people, they're passing it down to their kids. You know what I'm saying? People who are looking up to them and view them as an example. So it's a lot of bad information going around. It's a lot of brokenness, a lot of people who haven't healed. And again, fear of being alone, lack of patience. We have a very skewed perception on the timing of our lives when it comes to getting into a relationship and having kids, which I think has completely messed people up. And it has people rushing before they're truly ready. And it has people rushing with the wrong person.
Yeah. So often I'll get questions from people in relationships and they're wondering if the love is real. people that aren't yet married and they're physical.
Mhm.
And what I always tell them is the best way to audit the relationship is just to stop having sex and have a conversation with the person and say, look, we're going to stop having sex. And if we become convinced that we're in love, we'll get married and then we'll start having sex again on our wedding night. But if it becomes clear that we're not in love, that we'll break up. And to me, I actually did this. I did this with my last girlfriend. And within about 3 weeks, it was like the clouds parted and I could see clearly. And I don't know if it was from not having all the hormones, that cocktail of hormones going through my body from the sex, or I don't know exactly what it was, but I was able to see clearly, or maybe it's just God, because I was praying during that whole time. Like if we're not right, here I'm putting this hard thing for me to do on the altar, and he answered and he broke us up, or at least that's the way it worked out.
Yeah.
So is that something that you have advised like some of your clients, or in your talks, do you tell people to, if they're not yet married, is that a way that you tell them to kind of, the best way to audit a relationship is to pump the brakes on the physical, or what do you suggest?
Well, I definitely think that is definitely one of the strongest ways to gain some clarity on the relationship. You pull back from the physical. I definitely think that would make a huge difference. A lot of people are attached to their partner strictly because of the physical. That's the real core issue there, or one of the core issues for some people. The other thing that I tell people to look at is, rather than trying to evaluate if this person loves you, you have to go within yourself and ask yourself, do you really love them? Why are you here? Because the reality is that some people are trying to validate staying in the relationship by determining how the other person feels. To hell with how they feel. And that's not to be disrespectful or to dismiss them. It's to simply say, if you are not truly in love with them, then they are not truly in love with you. It does not work one-sided. It has to be two ways. All right. So when you start to really go within yourself and say, okay, when you take a step back and realize, damn, I'm really not happy here, but I'm here because I've invested so much time, or I'm here because I'm afraid to start all over. When you start to realize your motivation is not love, then there's your answer. There's your answer. That means their motivation is not love either. It's probably attachment, infatuation, you name it. So, and that goes back to my belief of connection. A connection is a two-way experience. And if one person's claiming it and the other one does not feel it from within, something's off.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I hear people say, because you can see sometimes from the outside of a relationship, you can see it a lot more clearly than the people inside it sometimes. And they'll be like, well, I'm in love with them. And I'm like, well, it takes two people to be in love. And if that person is out sleeping with everybody around town, you're really not in love, because like I could be in love with Angelina Jolie. I don't know who the hell I am. So it really does take two people. And the one thing because what's kept me in relationships too long when I was physical with girls was they would be more emotionally invested than me. And then I didn't want to break their heart. I didn't want to crush them. So I would just stay. But, I came to the point where I'm like, if I can't love them, really be in love with them in a way that they deserve, then I'm doing them a disservice.
Exactly.
Because there is someone out there that will love them and like they're the only girl in the world. And if I can't do that, then for me to stay with them is selfish of me. Absolutely. It's cowardly, really, to not have the conversation. So what do you think about soul ties?
In what way?
I mean, do you believe that they exist? I know the term's not in the Bible, but I mean, I look at it more like a biological, as you said, like the sex a lot of times keeps people in the relationships. I look at it more like, oxytocin, the soul tie thing is more on a biology level. But do you believe that that's a real thing, like soul ties?
I believe that there is some kind of spiritual occurrence that happens with sex. And whether it's just that we're taking a piece of them or we are being binded to them in some kind of way, I do believe there is some level of soul tie that exists there that we have to break off. So I do think, again, it's one of those things that I need to do heavier, extensive research into to really evaluate how I completely feel about it. But I do feel something is happening in the spiritual. It is. So I do believe in the biological as well. But I do believe there's something happening in the spiritual as well, which is why we have to be very mindful or just completely stay away from that.
So have you ever been in love?
Yeah.
Yeah. Many times?
I thought I was in love more than once.
Yeah.
But genuine, true connection, no, not more than once.
No, but once.
Mm-hmm.
Really? Yeah. All right. I won't go down that road. I can tell you're like, don't want to talk about that anymore. Let me see if there's any questions from viewers, because I'm actually looking at the YouTube stream and it's kind of blowing up. Let's see here. The desire for sex goes away when you're in a horrible relationship, so don't settle to have sex. That is true.
The desire for the woman goes away. The desire for the man probably still remains as long as he's physically attracted to his woman. But granted, don't go down that path.
No, you know what? She's 100% right. Like that was one of the reasons that I put in the 10 reasons video is physical attraction fades. Like literally I would be in relationships with girls and they were beautiful. Like I'm talking like 10s, and I just wanted to go to sleep. You know, like I could recognize how hot they were, but I didn't want it because we weren't connected on a deep level. And I had rushed into the relationship by getting physical. And then now I'm stuck with somebody. I say stuck, but we're stuck together, however you want to look at it. And now we're not even having sex, or at least regular sex. And the times that I was doing it, I was just feeling like I had to fulfill my duty as a boyfriend, not because I was like wanting to like rip their pants off. And that's what happens. I believe it's the consequence of rushing in too early. It's almost like God says, okay, you don't want to wait, watch what happens, you know, and it comes back on us. So now we end up having less sex than the people that waited and to see if there was a real connection. So I think it's true for men and women, really. Mm-hmm. So Stacy Thomas said, how do you channel that sexual energy? She said, what are the steps? I know it's changing your thoughts, but I guess some guidelines. Do you have any guidelines for channeling that sexual energy?
Really, a lot of it is one, recognizing the triggers and the sexual influences. I think a lot of people don't realize that their struggle with sexual desires is heavily dependent on their environment and what they're allowing into their mind and in their spirit. So the music you're listening to, the TV that you're watching, the people that you're hanging around, the things that you're looking at on the internet, all these things are contributing, whether consciously or subconsciously, to your sexual desires. So when you remove those things, you're going to notice you don't struggle as much. The other part of it is simply, it's going to take time. Like, so it's what I realized when I went on a fast. When I went 7 days without eating, I found myself at times wanting to eat, but I realized it wasn't hunger, it was habit. And so I had to reprogram myself to realize I did not need to eat. Don't give in to that desire. So it's the same thing with sex. We've gotten so in the habit of sexual action, sexual desires, so on and so forth, that we start to think we need, and we don't at that moment. We can overcome that, but it takes time because you kind of have to flush that out of your system. So recognizing the triggers, you know, understanding it's not always a sexual desire. And then also, of course, being productive, but not being productive in a let me distract myself kind of way. Being productive as in, no, there is something you need to be doing in your life. There is something that God wants you to be achieving right now. Hone in on that and get to work. That will, again, help. Will you be perfect? Does that mean you won't slip sometimes? I can't say that, but you will start to see improvements, you know, and if you implement all those three things, you're going to make a lot of strides as far as managing your sexual desires and sexual energy.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Are you familiar with sex transmutation?
Yeah.
It sounds like, you know, for me, it's been harnessing that sexual energy because it was super hard in the beginning, like you said. But over time, as I did it, as I disciplined myself, I learned to manage the appetite, and then I was able to harness that energy and do a lot of other things with it. But I feel like a lot of times people use sex or maybe even porn or whatever, just as escapism, you know, because they're I mean, I know I've done it, you know, where I've gotten depressed and I'm just like, want to feel something, you know? So anyway, I know you don't have a lot more time left, but what's next for you? Are you got a tour lined up this year, or what's coming up?
No. So right now, because we don't know what's going to happen with this whole pandemic thing and when everything's going to be cleared up, I'm waiting to see if I can plan a tour before the year is over, but more and more as time passes, looking like next spring. And hopefully by next spring, we are good and we don't got to worry about this anymore, at least not to this degree. So right now, just working on the book. You know, I have my membership program going, and just trying to keep growing the platform and growing the business, get the message out there.
Yeah. So talk about the membership program a little bit, because there's some people watching. I'm sure they might be interested.
Okay, so it's a monthly coaching program. This one is for women. I do have something for the men being created, just not time to release it yet. I'm waiting for God to give me the green light on that. But the women one is there. It's called How to Manifest the Life and Man God Has for You. So we do 2 live Q&As per month. There's a special Facebook group. There's over like 50 videos in there, modules, feminine energy, tapping into your feminine energy, how to heal, finding your purpose. So it's not just about a man, it's about overall quality of life for that woman, happiness, peace, just reaching your true potential, becoming the woman God created you to be. So yeah, if anyone wants to take advantage, they can go to receivingmyblessings.com and join today. And a lot of women, they're having their lives changed by the group. So it's been really, really powerful.
That's awesome, man. Next book.
Next book is actually The Woman God Has for You.
The Woman. Oh, nice. I was about to say, I'm still waiting for God Where's My Ruth. That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm definitely picking that one up. Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you taking time, dude.
No problem, man.
And yeah, I'll let you get back to everything, and hopefully I'll see you face to face here soon.
All right, cool. Enjoy your day, man.
Okay, you too. See you soon. All right, that's it, everybody. I'm going to shut down the live stream. If you got any ideas for guests, feel free to post them in a comment. If you're watching on YouTube, take a moment to subscribe, hit the bell notification. I don't think subscriptions matter all that much if you don't hit the bell. Yeah, if you got any other questions or topics that you want me to talk about in an upcoming podcast, post them in a comment below, hit the thumbs up button. Feel free to share it, all that good